Somebody call security. He's dangerous. I don't know how he got in, he must have jumped the fence. It all began with the sound of panic. Phones were flying out of handbags. A security button was pressed under the receptionist's desk. One white intern dropped her coffee on the clean marble floor as she screamed at the top of her lungs. "There's a black man in the lobby." They all stared at him like he was a bomb ready to explode. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just stood there, holding a small brown envelope. And it was a fake job application and a silent storm of pain he had carried for years. He was tall, clean, wearing simple brown leather sandals and a dark blue shirt with a missing button. His trousers were old, but his posture was royal. The receptionist pointed at him like he was a disease. "Sir, this is a private property. You cannot be here. Please leave." Another woman with bright red lipstick hissed, "You people are always looking for trouble. Go beg somewhere else." Security came running. One bald man shoved him hard. "Step out before we arrest you for trespassing." That was the moment he knew. The rot in his company was deeper than he thought, because none of them recognized him. None of them knew they were insulting the CEO of the largest logistics company in the country. A few hours earlier, he had sat in his luxurious penthouse, sipping hot Ethiopian coffee with no sugar. He looked over the skyline of Vamari City and whispered to himself, "Enough?" For 5 years, he had watched his company rise, winning awards, partnering with international brands, delivering millions of goods across borders. But something kept pricking his spirit. They only hired white people. All the senior staff were foreign. The HR manager once bragged that they filter out low-quality applicants without realizing one of the CVs she trashed belonged to a first-class graduate from Nigeria. But that wasn't the worst part. His name, Azabo Mutiso, had been erased. Everywhere he looked, on magazines, on posters, on company cards, they credited the company's success to a fictional white chairman named Richard Wells, the name his marketing manager had forced him to adopt to get investors. It worked, but it burned. So that morning, Azabo decided to test his own house. He put on simple clothes, packed a fake CV, and walked into the reception of his own HQ building. And now, here he was, being humiliated. As they yelled, one of the assistants called 911. "Emergency." "Yes." "A strange man entered our lobby, possibly armed." He's black." "Yes, very aggressive." Azabo smiled. Not because he was amused, but because their ugliness was louder than their accents. Then came the footsteps. Click, clack, click, clack. Everyone froze. The tall glass doors opened slowly, and in walked Madame Brenda, the operations manager. A powerful woman with a golden bob wig and legs that always walked like they had somewhere important to go. She looked up, ready to scold the noise until her eyes met his. Her knees buckled. Her mouth opened wide, but no words came out. Sir, what are you doing here?" she whispered. Everyone turned. "SIR?" one of the workers gasped. Brenda slowly walked toward him, trembling. "This is Mr. Azabo. He owns this company." Gasps. One woman started crying. The security guard who had pushed him fell to his knees. "Boss, I didn't know." Azabo didn't move. He looked at them, then at the cameras on the wall. "Brenda," he said calmly, "get HR. I want every single person who spoke today to me like I'm dirt fired. Immediately. But sir, please, let's talk." "No." He turned toward the exit. "And tomorrow, I want all departments opened for interviews. All backgrounds. All races. Let's rebuild this house. The right way." Then he paused at the door. "And burn all documents with the name Richard Wells. My name is Azabo Mutiso. I built this company with my hands. And I'm taking it back." As he stepped outside, the sky began to thunder. But Azabo smiled. The storm had already started inside. The footage hit the internet by 5 p.m. By 5:07, it had 200,000 views. By 5:25, it was number 3 on national trends. By 6 o'clock, it had become a war zone on X, Twitter, TikTok, and even LinkedIn. Movie camera. Watch. Black man harassed at Vimari Logistics HQ turns out to be the CEO. One clip showed Azabo being shoved by security. Another captured a white lady yelling, "You people don't belong here." But the real bombshell was the moment Madame Brenda whispered in shock. "This is Mr. Azabo. He owns this company." The silence that followed? Internet gold. News reporters rushed to the headquarters, sticking microphones in the faces of trembling workers. The receptionist who'd called 911 wore dark glasses and tried to sneak out the back door, but angry youth had already surrounded the building. "Where's Azabo?" "Black CEO, we see you. Let's go. We finally have one of US at the top." Azabo, however, was nowhere to be seen. He had returned quietly to his small, neat apartment in the old part of town, the place he had never left despite having billions in the bank. He took off his sandals, placed his phone on silent, and sat with his cup of spiced hibiscus tea. On the wall hung a framed photo of his late mother, Mama Taboo, a short, dark woman with strong eyes and a soft voice. She used to tell him, "Don't shout to be heard, Azabo." Work so well that even silence bends to listen. Today, silence was listening. The next day, chaos exploded at the company. Half the staff had been fired. Security replaced. Reception? Empty. HR manager? Gone. In their place stood people who didn't walk with pride, but with purpose. A single mother from the slums named Keisha was hired as assistant to the new HR. A former refugee from South Sudan, Elias, now managed courier dispatch. A young man with albinism, often mocked in public, was promoted to handle tech support. And the new receptionist? A soft-spoken girl in a hijab named Hawa who typed faster than lightning and never once judged a face. People talked. Some praised him. Some called it a PR stunt. Others tried to sue. But Azabo didn't flinch. That week, a persistent investigative reporter named Jelani Matuma showed up at his apartment. Jelani was short, fiery, with messy locks and shoes that looked like they'd walked the truth out of many lies. He didn't knock. He banged the door like he was calling thunder. Azabo opened slowly, sipping his tea. "I'm not here for fake questions," Jelani said without greeting. "I'm here because no man builds an empire and hides this long. Who are you really? Why hide your name? And why now?" Azabo stepped aside and nodded. "Come in." They sat on the small couch. Jelani hit record. Azabo took a long sip. "I was born in Kibra, inside a mud house with a leaking roof. My mother used to sell vegetables. My father disappeared before I turned 2. I read books under streetlights. I got my scholarship at 17. Went to China. Built logistics software that changed the game. Investors came. But they didn't want me. They wanted a face that made them comfortable. White. So you became Richard Wells?" Jelani asked. "I became silence. Until silence became too loud." He looked straight into the camera. "You see, Jelani, I didn't just create a company. I created a storm. And now I'm turning it into a movement. Not just for me. For all the black boys with genius brains and no connections. For all the black boys with genius brains and no connections. For all the women overlooked because of headscarves. For the ones who speak with an accent. I'm coming for them. And we're building the future together." Click. Interview done. The article dropped 48 hours later under the headline. Newspaper, The Black Ghost CEO, Why Azabo Mutiso hid his name for 5 years. It broke records. It changed minds. It started conversations in offices, salons, schools, and street corners. But not everyone was celebrating. Because somewhere in a cold white office, the original founding investor of Vimari Logistics, an arrogant British man named Mr. Trevor Glass, was pacing up and down his private mansion, fuming. "He's gone mad," he yelled. This was not part of the contract. He was supposed to stay hidden. He picked up the phone. "We need to shut him down." But what Trevor didn't know was that Azabo had already predicted this storm. And this time, He wasn't hiding. Azubo stood on the dusty rooftop of a community building in Old Kawangware, surrounded by youth in second-hand clothes, single mothers with hope in their eyes, and retired mechanics who had given up dreaming. The makeshift stage had no lights. The microphone had wires exposed. But the air was electric. He had promised to bring Vimari logistics to the people, to break down doors that had been closed for too long. "Speak, Azubo," a woman shouted from the crowd. "Tell us how we rise." "Show them they can't erase us anymore," another man yelled. Azubo stepped forward slowly, holding the mic like a sacred object. "You've heard my name, but you don't know my pain. You've seen the headlines, but not the nights I walked barefoot to dream. I was never the face they wanted, but I'll be the voice they'll never silence." Cheers exploded. But far away, in a luxury boardroom with glass walls and expensive whiskey, two shadows were plotting. Trevor Glass, the British founding investor, sat across from a woman in a silky black power suit. Her name was Zaria Mutiso, Azubo's cousin, his late mother's sister's daughter, the one person he trusted blindly. Zaria was smart, calculated, and always one step ahead. She was the quiet woman behind Azubo's first tech contracts, the one who managed shares and silently advised him. To the world, she was just family. To Trevor, she was an opportunity. "I told you he'd go rogue," Trevor said, sipping his drink. "Now he's giving jobs to refugees and poor people like it's charity. We'll lose the elite investors." Zaria smiled, crossing her legs. "Let me take care of it." Trevor blinked. "You mean?" "I mean give me signing power. Let me run the board. You step back for 2 weeks. I'll make him look like a radical lunatic. Then I'll vote him out at the emergency shareholders meeting." Trevor leaned back, grinning. "You're colder than I thought." She raised a brow. "I'm smarter than you thought." Back in Vimari HQ, things were shifting. Azubo had opened recruitment centers in Kibra, Mathar, Kaol, even refugee camps in Garissa. Every day, his inbox filled with thank you messages from people who had never believed a company this size could look like them. But something was off. Meetings were being rescheduled without his knowledge. Emails were going missing. A group of directors began avoiding him. And when he tried logging into the system one morning, his admin access was blocked. Error 403. Access denied. Azubo froze. He called Brenda. No answer. He tried Elias. Switched off. Then a message popped up on his screen. "Azubo, it's nothing personal, but we're voting you out next Friday. Sit this one out. Z." He read it 10 times. Zaria? The same Zaria who used to braid hair with his late mother on Sunday evenings? The same cousin who helped design his first logo on a borrowed laptop? She was taking him down? But Azubo didn't panic. He wore the same dusty sandals, the same old blue shirt, and took a night bus to his village. There, he met Nzi Mutua, the 91-year-old lawyer who helped him hide a secret clause in the original company constitution years ago. One that nobody, not even Zaria, remembered. It was called Clause 13b, the builder's right, a protection written for the original founder, allowing him to reclaim full control if racial discrimination or cultural sabotage was proven within the boardroom. Azubo smiled. "Prepare it, Nzi. We're not fighting. We're rebuilding." The day of the shareholders' meeting arrived. Zaria walked in wearing a white designer blazer and heels that could stab. Trevor joined via live stream from London, pretending to be concerned. Today, Zaria began, "We vote to protect the company's image and keep it from becoming a political circus." A few clapped. Others nodded. Just before she called for the vote, the glass doors opened. Azubo walked in. But not alone. Behind him came Mama Keisha, now HR head. Elias from Dispatch. Hawa, the receptionist. And 4 customers from underserved communities now working with the company's outreach arm. Zaria's eyes widened. "You can't be here." "I never left," Azubo said calmly, placing a folder on the table. He pulled out Clause 13b. I founded this company. I buried my name to build it. You buried my name to own it. But today, I'm exhuming my identity with the law." A silence fell like a brick. Zarya turned to Trevor. "You said he'd forgotten that clause." Trevor turned pale. He was never supposed to use it. Too late. Azubo pressed play on a video showing discriminatory emails between board members. One even referred to black applicants as low cultural capital. Another called the slum hires image cleaners. The room gasped. Zarya's face dropped. Azubo faced the board. "You want a company that excludes? That silences? That wears diversity like makeup? Not on my watch." He held the final page in his hand. Clause 13B grants me 100% voting override under cultural sabotage. And today, he signed it. Boom. Just like that, he took it back. Zarya tried to speak. "Azubo, I did it to protect your name, your value." "No," he said softly. "You did it to own what you didn't build. But I built this with scars. And I won't let betrayal be the paint over my legacy." She walked out quietly. The board clapped. Some cried. Outside, the streets were filled with chants again. "Azubo, Azubo, Azubo." But he didn't smile. Not yet. There was still more to fix. It was 2 days after Azubo reclaimed full control of Vimari logistics. The entire country was still buzzing. People painted murals of his face on city walls. Talk shows couldn't get enough of his story. University students made TikTok skits pretending to be the racist receptionist who got fired. But Azubo wasn't celebrating. He sat alone on the edge of a dry football field in his village. No phone, no media, just wind, dust, and memories. He had come to breathe, to remember who he was before the money, before the betrayal, before Richard Wells. That's when he saw him. A short, limping man wearing an oversized coat and one shoe, dragging a half-torn sack behind him. Azubo almost looked away until the man's voice stopped him cold. "You used to cry when Mama Taboo took away your slingshot." Azubo froze. "You broke my radio because I said your stew was salty. Remember that, Azubo?" He turned around. The world stood still. "Kwame." The man smiled, a crooked, gap-toothed grin that used to flash through muddy puddles and mango trees when they were both just boys, barefoot in the village. "It's me, brother." The boy with one shoe. Kwame had been Azubo's childhood best friend. Together, they'd built kites from newspapers and wires, shared chapatis on market days. And when Azubo's father disappeared, it was Kwame who defended him from bullies who called him bastard. But that friendship had ended in darkness. Back when they were 15, Azubo got selected for a scholarship to China. Everyone clapped, except Kwame, because Kwame believed the opportunity should have been his. He had scored higher in maths. He'd also applied, but his letter never came. "I thought you forgot me," Kwame said softly, sitting on a stone. "I thought the world picked you and threw me away." Azubo's heart burned. "I didn't forget," he whispered. "I searched for you. They told me you moved to the city, that you joined a gang." Kwame chuckled. "I did. Stole wallets. Slept in alleys. I hated you, Azubo. But I hated the world more." There was silence. Just the wind. Then Kwame slowly pulled out something from the sack. A brown envelope. Old, wrinkled, dusty. Azubo opened it, and his hands trembled. Inside was Kwame's original scholarship letter, never opened. Dated the same month Azubo left. "It came," Kwame said quietly, "but the postman gave it to Mama Taboo by mistake. I found it years later hidden in her things after she passed. I don't think she meant harm. She just didn't know it wasn't yours." Azubo couldn't breathe. All these years. Kwame should have gone too. They could have both been something. "I'm sorry," Azubo whispered. Kwame wiped his face. "You don't owe me sorry. But maybe, just maybe, you can help me walk again. Not with a shoe, but with purpose." The next day, Azubo called a press meeting. But not in a hotel. Not in the HQ. He did it in the middle of a slum. Cameras set on wooden stools, mics hanging on strings. Kwame stood beside him, shaven, dressed in clean clothes, no longer invisible. Azubo held his hand up. "This is my brother. The world gave me lights and left him in shadows. But if we must rise, we rise together." That moment broke the internet. Some cried, some confessed, some called their old friends. But one man watched with shaking hands. Trevor Glass. From his London estate, he stared at the footage of Kwame. His eyes narrowed. He knew that name. He scrolled back through old documents, and there it was. Kwame Obode. Applied for internship at Vimari Logistics 5 years ago. Rejected. Trevor clenched his fist. He's going to expose everything. He picked up the phone. "Zaria, we have a bigger problem." The street boy now has a voice. But Azubo wasn't done. He announced the launch of Project One Shoe, a full department in Vimari that trained and hired ex-gang members, street kids, and ex-convicts who had skills but no chances. And the director? Kwame. "Some of the brightest minds live in the darkest places," Azubo said. "I'm going to build a ladder for them, even if the world calls it madness." But what he didn't know was that a storm was brewing behind the scenes. Zaria, desperate to regain power, had found something. An old video. A blurry clip from Azubo's early startup days in China, one that could be twisted to make him look corrupt, like he had stolen tech from a former partner. And she had sent it to the press, anonymously. The video hit the internet like a tsunami. A shaky clip, filmed years ago in a crowded Chinese tech lab, showed a young black man, Azubo, arguing with a pale, angry man over a computer design. The white man shouted, "That's my code," while Azubo yelled, "You abandoned the project." Then Azubo stormed off with a flash drive. The caption? "African CEO stole billion-dollar tech to build Vimari Logistics?" Trevor's voice echoed behind the scenes. "Let the world see him as a thief, not a hero." It worked. News stations exploded. #CancelAzubo trended globally. Suddenly, newspapers that once praised him turned. Old investors pulled back. Talk shows replaced his story of victory with rumors of fraud. Azubo sat alone in his office, watching the chaos unfold. Even Mama Keisha, now HR head, cried in disbelief. "Boss, this is too much." But Azubo didn't move. He had stared death in the face. He had worn poverty like skin. And now, they thought they could break him with a crooked edit? He stood up. "Call Elias. Call Kwame. We fight tonight." That same evening, Kwame released a video of his own. He stood in the slum, holding the old flash drive Azubo once gave him in their village before Vimari ever existed. He spoke directly to the camera. "This flash drive holds the truth. Azubo never stole anything. That design was his. I watched him code for 3 straight days without sleep. He begged the Chinese man to stay. But the guy left, said he didn't want to build an African company. Azubo took back what he built with his hands." The internet paused. Then the comments started flowing in. "I believe him. Trevor has always been shady. Where are the full clips? #Justice for Azubo." But it wasn't over yet. Zaria wasn't done. At the annual National Business Excellence Awards, Azubo had been scheduled to receive the Visionary of the Year trophy. It was a global stage, press, politicians, and billionaires attended. Everyone assumed he would cancel. But that night, the doors of the event swung open and Azubo walked in. Dressed in a long, flowing traditional black agbada, lined with golden embroidery and cowrie beads around his wrist. He didn't walk in like a CEO. He walked in like a king. The entire room turned. Gasps. Whispers. Phones flashing. Then a sharp female voice rang out. "You're a fraud. You don't deserve that award." "Zaria." She stepped onto the stage, holding up a new video, this time edited to make it seem like Azubo bribed someone in China. Security moved in. But Azubo raised a hand. "I have nothing to hide," he said calmly. "But Zaria does." He nodded. Kwame walked onto the stage holding an envelope. Inside this, Kwame said, is a signed confession from a Chinese tech investor confirming Azubo was the rightful owner of the code. And a copy of an email from Trevor Glass offering Zarya a private payout to destroy her cousin's company. Zarya's face drained. The host of the event snatched the mic. "Play it." The recording played aloud. Trevor's voice was clear. "Bring him down, Zarya. Then I'll make you CEO." Vimari doesn't need another African poster boy. The crowd screamed. Zarya tried to run, but security blocked her. She was handcuffed. So was Trevor, arrested in London that same night. Azubo stood still. Tears welled up. Not of pain. Of release. He held the mic. "They tried to break me. They tried to silence my skin. But I am not a mistake. I am not a thief. I am Azubo Omondi Macaulay, son of a village cook, CEO of the people. And I built this company not for the world to approve, but for the next African child to believe." The hall erupted. The audience stood. Azubo received a 10-minute standing ovation. A year later, Vimari now operates in 12 countries. Its staff is 75% African, 40% women, 60% from marginalized communities. Project Wenshu becomes a global model. And Kwame? He becomes deputy CEO. Azubo still drives his old pickup truck sometimes. Still eats in the market with boda riders. Still signs deals in slippers. Because he never wanted to be seen. He only ever wanted to be heard. This story teaches that. Never judge power by polish. The most powerful lions walk quietly. And when the world shuts doors on your identity, build your own kingdom. In silence, then in fire.